Litthya, thank you so much for being with me today on the Deep Dive.
Of course, happy to hear.
Great. Let's dive in. So during your career in consumer insights, what is the most significant shift you've seen in how consumers make decisions?
You know, when I was thinking about this, there are some things that have not changed, that stay the same. You know, people will trust a brand based on what they know this brand is good for, right? So that's why it's so difficult for a brand to expand to what is not their core, right? So that has not changed. Trust continues to be the same thing. I think people are basing their decisions on trust. The big shift is obviously technology and how influencers are now a thing and social media is not a thing. In my categories, you don't even have to go to a doctor anymore. You just, the influencer said I should take these supplements, I'm gonna go for it. So I think those dynamics have completely shifted the way people make decisions, but trust continues to be kind of the big thing, the big driver of choice.
Yeah, I see that as well. I think back to, I'm going to age myself, when I started out in my career, everyone was trying to figure out how do you deal, yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with social media? What is this social media? And people are listening to that. And really, it's just another form of word of mouth.
Exactly.
And you listen to who you trust.
Exactly. It's just that now you have more friends, if you will, right? So it's thousands of people telling you what to do versus 10. So
Yeah. So given that, it leads to, based on those changes, do you think brands need to change how they go about doing research?
Definitely, absolutely. And you know, understanding that who you are is important as a brand. I'm an advocate of staying true to who you are as a brand, but also leveraging the information available. There are so many reviews out there. There are so many social media conversations. Like, leverage what people are already saying about your brand or about topics that are relevant to you, and mine that existing data versus trying to boil the sea, if you will, with those large studies. They're important to quantify some behaviors, but to understand what those behaviors are, there's so much more out there that we should continue to mine. I think that we're just scratching the surface on that. The power of that data is becoming more and more useful for us researchers and for the brand teams as well.
Do you think that the proliferation of technology and the data it has enabled sways the research in any way, in that there's a lot available to us, but it comes from a certain sort of source or type of engagement that may skew it one way or the other? Or do you think it really is just more is better and we're in a better age?
That's a great question. I think when people are in their natural habitat, I hate saying this, but it's you are more natural. You say things like you feel them, and social media and reviews allow people to be more of themselves, sometimes too much. So I think that is super valuable, because when you conduct your own research, they sometimes tell you what you want to hear, and they sugarcoat the feedback. So I think considering all those factors takes you to that truth, right? Don't take what this study says in isolation as your truth. I love when different data sources start kind of talking to one another. Like the POS data is confirming what the people are saying about the product and what we heard in the research. So when everything kind of sings to the same tune, it's a beautiful thing. But I think instead of getting overwhelmed by data, which I've seen is a problem, it's more finding those themes, finding those kind of big truths, if you will, universal truths, and building your strategy around that. I think as researchers, sometimes we fall in paralysis, right? Because oh my gosh, I have so much information here. And I think it's more about taking a step back, looking at things from that perspective of, I don't belong in this company, I don't belong in this brand, I'm a regular person. And I also go shopping, and I also make choices about brands. How would I think about this? Or how would my relative who is in this income bracket or in this region, how would they think? So if we put ourselves in human shoes, the truth comes out, and those numbers start kind of jumping at you, like that movie, Beautiful Mind, when the numbers were... sometimes I feel that way, because, oh yes, this is so consistent.
Hopefully it's a little clearer.
Exactly, it's a little clearer, But it's a beautiful thing when that happens.
Yes, it can be a very beautiful thing. And I think when you're able to look at it from the voice of whoever it is, whether it's the relative or you or whatever, You hear a different story, it means
Yes.
something different. You can take it from that lens.
Yes,
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question on that, going back to what you said about trust. How does a brand become known for something different, right? If they're branching out to change who they are, and yet you're going out in this world where often it's an echo chamber of what is. What have you seen there?
You know, that is the question that I don't have a full answer for, but this is what I have experienced. Is sometimes brands, I see the world, and I use my hands a lot, so apologies to those that are watching. I see the world as concentric circles, the world of marketing. So if your brand stands for something, that's your center, right? Sometimes brands, when they want to expand, they want to go 3 or 4 concentric circles out of where their core is, and that's where they start experiencing problems. Because consumers, it's like me showing up tomorrow in goth outfits, right? People are gonna be like, what is happening with this woman? So I believe that same goes for brands. Like, you cannot just say tomorrow you're gonna be something different.
Yeah.
So start exploring the immediate circle that is surrounding your category or your core.
Yeah.
Instead of going all the way 3 steps ahead. I think it's viable. It's just that you have to invest, and you also have to tell people about it, right? So it doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately.
That is very insightful and a very clear way to think about how do you very slowly make that expansion and expand what you're known for. Yeah. So what do you think other leaders miss about translating this new wealth of data into growth?
I think I alluded to that a little bit earlier, is finding those themes and not getting lost in, but I need this data point to make a conclusion. But hold on, didn't we already know that this person acts this way, or trusts brands this way, or sees the world this way? Let's make assumptions about the gaps that we have. There's always the opportunity to do data filling or gap filling research. Absolutely, I'm an advocate of that. I'm not an advocate of continuing to try to find the same answers over and over and again. Oh, because we did this research last year, so it's outdated. So I feel like trusting your gut, trusting your understanding of the category, and standing for the truth, the human truths, because convenience and trust and quality and value, those are the same things that keep coming up, no matter where you are category-wise. So, and because brand equity doesn't change overnight either, there are some things that you know in your heart that is the way to go, because of all the vast information that you have in your computer here. So I think that trusting that a little bit more. And going from the principle, I know this already, let me just see where, I remember seeing this somewhere, versus going and chasing information. I think we spend a lot of time trying to go and chase that information versus making conclusions with what we have, which is solid enough.
That is very interesting, because in this world that we're in, where there is so much data, what you're saying is that's great, but you may not actually need it all, and don't get stuck. Don't get hung up on looking at it.
Yeah, because you can get lost in it.
Yeah.
It's very easy. It's like me on internet. It was like, wait, it's been 2 hours? Okay, I need to make dinner now. So similar with our daily jobs, right?
So you mentioned that amidst all this data, it's also important to be able to be comfortable with gaps and make assumptions and fill those in. Can you expand on that, and how much of that is about the gut, as you said, and how much of that is actually about what technology enables us to do now to impute answers and find those answers if they're not actively provided? I'd love to hear about that.
That's a great question. So there's obviously a couple of routes that you could use. You could fill your gaps with quick research, with real people, if you will. Those tools are available. They're super easy to use, DIY and whatnot. But there's also tapping into Gen AI. And now that we can build personas out of nowhere, just feed all the information you have to those personas, or a simple question to your Gen AI tool of choice, they already have a sea of information that you can tap into. And for me, it was fascinating. I was using Gen AI to kind of understand research that I have conducted myself, but I'm like, I wonder how this persona will react to X, Y, and Z. I haven't even created the personas in in my Gen AI, but based on all the research that I had on my files, they say, well, this persona might react to this situation in health and wellness this way. And it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I didn't even prepare this, but it's so smart that it gave me a really good answer in seconds, right? So with that answer, I was able to build more hypotheses or seek the right information. So, I mean, it's a little creepy. Sometimes you can have a direct conversation with one of these personas. And they can talk amongst themselves, and sometimes they can like fight amongst them. It's like, wow, okay, I'm old. I'm officially old. However, you can use them to your advantage, right? And to your point, to fill those gaps that sometimes you don't have the time or the money to fill with traditional research.
How much acceptance do you see for that type of Gen AI usage? Where are we on that spectrum of yes, it can do that, but I don't trust it, or
my favorite answer is it depends. It's the consultant answer. I should work for a consultant company. So it really depends on what category you are working with, what company you're working with. Like, for example, I was talking to someone in my company where we're advancing the agenda very quickly, testing, doing pilots here and there, working with different vendors, understanding which one of those synthetic personas is better versus the other. Like, we're doing a lot of experimentation. But I was talking to someone, not in the industry, but they were saying, well, we have Gen AI blocked in our company. We can't use it. So it really depends on where you are in the spectrum, and where you are in terms of the company that you work for also plays a role. There's your individual curiosity when you're home or on your own phone when you use your Gen AI, but also having a network of people that are all experimenting with the same things is very useful.
I think as an industry we're iterating, and what we talk about a lot, or I think a lot about, is it appropriate for the use case? Because it may be great for some things, and not so much for others.
Exactly. So I am a big proponent of let's use it in a smart way. Can't be the answer for everything, and it isn't. And I don't think, it'll never replace humans, right? So it can give us a proxy of how humans would think based on, guess what? Humans. That fed all that information to those tools.
What an interesting concept to loop this back to where we started, which was trust. So if everybody decides things based on trust, and typically trust is established between humans. And now we're talking about how AI comes into the mix in the world and in decisions. I wonder what that does about trust.
I don't know. That's important. For us as researchers, I don't know what that will do. That's why it's so important to always know your sources and know what to use when. Right? But you're right, like that has an impact on trust, especially if you're launching your best idea thus far and you're solely relying on AI. I would say maybe not. Maybe there are use cases where you can, if you want to be more agile, go crazy on the smaller or on the preliminary steps of the innovation process. But don't you? It's about being smart about how to use the resources. Because the trust is not only the trust that you have in the results, but also the trust that your customers will have when you present the product, right? They're gonna be like, you only used AI to develop this whole thing, so it has to be a balance.
Because it's all in service of making a decision. And are you going to make a decision based off of this?
Exactly.
And how important a decision?
And how big is the decision? How much is at stake?
Very much. Okay. So how have you helped teams move beyond reporting to actually drive real change?
I think I'm annoying a little bit. So pushing for, okay, what do we want to, what's the decision that we're making? Why are we here? What's the purpose of this discussion that we're having? Because sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy because it's like, okay, repeat and like deja vu, I've been here before. So it's almost reminding, okay, what is the objective of what we're trying to accomplish? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? I think that's a big question that we should continuously be asking to drive that growth. It's basically helping people to think beyond the data point,
Do you find Is it a cultural thing in the company of getting comfortable of saying, okay, so what? Or is it an individual thing where you're coaching people to say, got it, you did the research? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Definitely, because sometimes company culture doesn't help. In my case right now, company culture is very much open to growth mindset.
Yeah.
Is one of our mottos. But it really depends on where you are. And it depends also on how you were brought up as a professional, right? So sometimes you come from environments where it was not allowed to take risks or to make assumptions. You had to have every T crossed, I think that's the expression. So, I don't know. I forgot.
No, you got it. Dot your I's.
There you go. So when people come from those cultures, it's hard to break from that.
Yeah.
But I think we all need to get there at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with AI, where maybe the analysis and the data crunching happens elsewhere. What we people bring is actually the so
Exactly.
what.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
We need to become insight strategists versus insight
Generators.
or researchers. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm a strategist who happens to work for insight. So that's how we should identify ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So you're presenting later today. Can
Yeah.
you give us an overview of what you'll be sharing?
Oh, yeah, sure. Speaking of using different data sources, there was a project that we held at Haleon where we tried to understand the people we serve a little better. And we used demand spaces to understand the occasions. And we used AI to understand, and we used that data that came from there to understand demographically how these occasions would over or under index. So it was fascinating to see how some people of certain profiles would over-index in some usage occasions versus others. So we created these personas. So that these personas are our VIPs, as we call them. And we utilized not only the demand space data, but secondary data like panel, etc., as well as a bunch of other primary research. AI also fed that knowledge, right? And we started creating some hypotheses as to who is this persona, how old are they, etc. And with Nail Biter, we did really interesting work around, that methodology that they have, where they have, hundreds of qualitative videos transformed into quant data.
Yeah.
So that process of getting to know our VIPs better was so robust because it included all the data sources that we managed at the time. So instead of going crazy, which you could have, what we did was understanding where the themes were.
Yeah.
And taking out all those slides that are secondary, that are not the money slides, like, okay, this is not going to help your story.
Yeah.
That's what we did, and I'm really happy with the outcome. So
That's a phenomenal body of work. So how long does that journey take of doing that research, but then also starting to embed it in the company?
Oh, yes. So embedding is my favorite topic. Embedding is as important as the work itself, right? So the work itself, because it was a journey of different bodies of research, it took us like about 6 months to get everything, right? With Nail Biter was a couple of months. It was really easy to get. That was the icing on that, very thick icing on that cake.
Yeah.
Embedding, it's a continuous process. We're still working on it. It has been a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report, if you will, that there's big adoption. Our marketers, our innovation teams, our cross-category teams, we're all looking at these personas and understanding how could we serve them better by creating experiences and products that delight them. So obviously a lot of work to be done at this point.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have made tremendous progress to embed these personas in the organization.
I think that is the harder part of the job.
Yes.
It's hard to identify correctly who your VIPs are, but then bringing your VIPs into all aspects of the business is where the real work begins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to your session.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being with me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.